we want to have our next presentation. We're going to ask, amen, Sister Anita Easterwood to come. Amen. She's going to bless us. Amen. Y'all can do better than that. Come on, y'all. Y'all can do better than that.
Okay, good morning, church. Thank you, Pastor Seahorn, for introducing me. As he mentioned, my name is Anita Easterwood, and a couple of weeks ago, Pastor Cofield had came and asked me to speak on black women and black women in history. So I don't have a lot of time. I have a stopwatch. I'm not going to take all day. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in it. So if you do not know, I am a high school teacher, so that means that I hear a lot of interesting stories. And recently, I overheard a couple of girl students, now these students weren't black, but they were talking about how they wanted lip injections. And I was like, why do you want lip injections? They said they want to look like Kylie Jenner. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with Kylie Jenner, she's the youngest daughter of Olympic medalist Bruce Jenner and the youngest sibling of Kim Kardashian. If you don't know who Kim Kardashian is, she's the daughter of the late lawyer Robert Kardashian, who was famous in the O.J. Simpson trial. They shouldn't be famous, but anyway, they are. And so in today's time, you said what? Oh, in today's time, Kylie Jenner is a fashion icon, and she has lip injections and other body injections. So there's so many black girls, excluding the black girls, but a lot of white girls and Hispanic girls who want to look like Kylie. And for me, that's perplexing, and it's mind-boggling because I know, and I know you all know, that historically, black women have been mocked, ridiculed, and outcasted for having features like full lips. It wasn't deemed as beautiful. So anything that reminded society that we were of African descent, that includes your kinky hair, your dark skin, your wide nose, your curves, your full lips, your braids, your dreads, they were frowned upon. But when a white woman imitates our likeness, all of a sudden it's beautiful. They'll praise white celebrities for wearing things like braids, but they'll also tell our black girls simultaneously that braids are too ghetto to wear in the school. So you can't wear braids. You can't have hair beads. And when you have a ponytail, it actually needs to be a ponytail. That means it needs to go down, but you can't wear puff balls. But they don't know our hair goes out, not down. But those type of styles are deemed inappropriate while they simultaneously praise these white celebrities. So there are also white celebrities who try to get their hair big like ours at the same time. They'll love black features on everyone else but black women themselves. And it's easier for black women like me or those who may be older and know more about our history and are more secure in who we are to think that this is all nonsense. We recognize who started the trends. We know who invented the braids. So we don't think that it really impacts our girls like it does. But let me tell you, it's a big impact on them. I remember that my sister came to me and she was telling me about how her oldest daughter, my niece, was telling her how she wanted her hair straight like her peers, like her classmates, her Blue Valley classmates. So you get what I'm saying. And so I said, what'd you say to her? She said, I asked her, well, don't you want hair like Auntie? And then she goes, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll do that then. So it does matter how we look. We must teach our young black women that they do have value because society won't tell them. And they'll take everything from them and tell them that we have no value. We have no worth. So while all these girls are trying to look like Kylie Jenner, they don't understand that Kylie Jenner is trying to look like us. She's trying to look like you, like your niece, like your daughter. But Kylie Jenner will never say that. They'll never say any of that. The next thing I want to talk about is that a couple of months ago, my niece, the same niece, came to me, and she saw my Malcolm X bookmark. And she asked me who it was, and I paused, and I said, it's Malcolm X. You know who Malcolm X is? She said, no. So they didn't teach you about Brother Malcolm? She said, no. So I knew right then, if they didn't teach her about Brother Malcolm, they didn't teach her about Fannie Lou Hamer, Ida B. Wells, or Madam C.J. Walker, because we all know that when it comes to notable black figures, that we get one page in the history textbook, okay? And that one page, 99% of the time, is dedicated to Dr. Martin Luther King, which is great, but even then, they give you a very narrow depiction of what he stood for. And you don't even get the even bigger picture of the civil rights movement. If black women are ever mentioned, they are reduced solely to the support system of men in their leadership roles, when in reality, black women were and still are leaders, organizers, innovators, and trendsetters. So I believe if you know about Dr. Martin Luther King, you should also be aware of Ella Baker. Is anyone familiar with Ella Baker here? Can I see your hand? Okay, I believe she is the most underrepresented figure in the civil rights movement. She was known for her fight in achieving racial and economic justice. She worked alongside Dr. Martin Luther King and his group Southern Christian Leadership Conference, but is mostly noted for her part to help build and advise the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. You guys know what that group is also known as? SNCC. Okay, and that was the most impactful organization of the civil rights era. Now, what was different about Ms. Baker is that she had the foresight to realize that if you have a hierarchy, which is a leader and a follower, you can't get people involved like that. People don't want to participate if they don't feel like they're being used. And so what she wanted to do was separate the college students, let them have their own entity, let them have their own voice, let them have their own ideas, and let them lead the movement. And she helped them create a form of decentralized leadership. That means there's not a hierarchy of a follower, a leader, and a follower, but everyone played a part. And you have to understand that that was crucial to the civil rights movement. It wasn't one man and everyone else followed. No, no, no. It was the women, it was the young people who went door to door, who mobilized citizens to go out and vote, to go out and protest, to do freedom rides, different things like that. And Ella Baker was key in making that possible. The next woman that I want to talk about is Shirley Chisholm. Anyone familiar with Shirley Chisholm? Let me see your hand. Okay, does the youth know about Shirley Chisholm at all? But y'all know who Hillary Clinton is? Okay, let me tell you, before there was Hillary Clinton, there was Shirley Chisholm, okay? She is the first not only the first black woman to run for president, but the first black person, period, to run for a major party, for the Democratic Party in 1972. And what I like about Shirley Chisholm is that she didn't ask for anyone's permission. See, during this time, the black leaders and black politicians were actually meeting together to decide who they were going to have represent them for the Democratic Party. I don't know if Ms. Chisholm didn't know about the meeting or if she just didn't care. But the next day they woke up and they saw that Ms. Shirley Chisholm was running for president. And so that's things that needs to be noted. If we fast forward to today, we know about the Black Lives Matter movement, which was actually started. It began with the murder of Trayvon Martin, who was killed by self-proclaimed neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman. And the phrase itself was actually created by 3 black women. And so it began with Trayvon Martin and then ignited with the murder of Mike Brown, right? And so what has happened is with this movement, you see a whole new host of women coming in and taking the stage and taking leadership in roles that they did not want. For example, anyone know who Sabrina Fulton is? She's the mother of Trayvon Martin, okay? No one wants to be the mother of a teen who was slain. No one wants that title. But instead of being knocked out, instead of being down on her luck, what she did is she became a social activist. I had the honor of hearing and meeting Miss Fulton a couple of years ago when she came to K-State, and I was just so moved by how empowered she was, how she used her son's death as a platform to reach out to other victims, family victims of police brutality, and bring mention to the bigger issue of social injustice. She could have done nothing. But at the same time, she reminds me of the women who came before her. Does anyone know who Marley Evers Williams is? Okay, a few. She was the wife of Medgar Evers, who was assassinated. He was a civil rights activist, and he was assassinated. And I remember watching a documentary of her, and she said after her husband was killed in front of their home, she remembers being so angry that she wanted to take a shotgun and just blast everyone away. Can you imagine being in that position? But what she did after her husband was slain, she was also an activist and a journalist. She pursued his killer, and it took her 30 years. But in the 1990s, they finally prosecuted the man who killed her husband. That's nothing but strength from a black woman. It takes a black woman to make lemonade out of lemons, right? You take a situation and you make it into something greater. The last woman that I want to talk about is Marilyn Mosby. Does anyone know who she is? Okay, so she is Baltimore State Attorney, and she tried to prosecute 6 officers who were involved in the death of Freddie Gray in 2015. Freddie Gray was killed when he suffered a spinal injury in police custody. So basically, they put him in the back of the police truck. They rolled around. They didn't secure him or anything. They rolled him around until he died a week later, right? So not only did Marilyn Mosby take on this case, knowing that she would lose, because all officers got off, she took on the case despite all the criticism that she received. She didn't get a lot of support from the black community because they thought she wasn't doing enough, and she was dragged through the mud by the white community. And during this time, when she was taking on this case, she couldn't talk about it. She had to remain quiet. So everyone looked at this woman. They said, what is she doing? She's not taking this seriously. She had to endure all of that. At the end, not only were the 6 officers let off, they turned around, and in January of this year, a federal judge ruled that they can move forward in a lawsuit against the attorney, Miss Mosby, based on the claim that, oh, she just made it all up. The charges that she's tried to bring against these officers, they were not legit. They were a lie. So they let this black woman take on the case for our community, because we know it's bigger than Freddie Gray. They drug her through the mud, and now they're prosecuting her, trying to prosecute her. It's women like these who have become my modern-day role model. It's women like these who should continue to inspire us and help us uplift one another. So to all the young black girls and all the women out there, I just want to tell you that we are worthy, that we have always been magical. We have always been in the center of history, no matter if the history books tell us or not. Black women are always changing history. Black women are always shaping history, and we are always making history. And there's always work to be done, and it can't be done without the help of black women. So ladies, let's get to work. Thank you.